please be quiet for a moment. And I want to tell you something. The moment that this starts becoming chaotic, like animalistic, we're gone. So you want to know what's happening? Act civilized, act kind, act tolerant, because this is the problem with what's happening in the region. So I beg you, do you think this is fun for us? Do you think this is economically beneficial for Morgan and I to be here putting up with this insanity? In cadence, with your kindness, your interest, and your thoughtful questions, we'll give you responses. If that's not how you'd like to operate, we're gone. Okay? Is that acceptable to everybody? Now, what are we doing? I can't even have 2 minutes.
Well, if I were the Israeli prime minister, I would be looking at Lebanon differently after Hezbollah was disarmed by the Lebanese people. That's your decision. Why do you need Israel to tell you to disarm Hezbollah? That's not Israel's decision, that's yours decision. Whether they withdraw or not, it depends on what you do. So don't tell me anymore, we're not going to disarm Hezbollah until Israel does something. If that's the model, you're going to fail. The reason you disarm Hezbollah, because it's best for you. This country is going backward, not forward, if you don't follow through with disarming the Palestinians and Hezbollah and making the Lebanese army the central repository of arms for the nation. If you don't do that, you're going nowhere. Saudi Arabia is not coming here unless you do that. I'm coming here with Jean, she's a great partner in the Senate, to tell you that the Congress is looking at Lebanon differently because you're behaving differently. If you continue to go down this road, I think you have a wonderful opportunity to secure your nation economically and militarily like anything I've seen since I've been coming to the region with John McCain. It all depends on what happens with the Hezbollah file and the Palestinian file.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome again to Syriana Analysis. I'm your host, Kevork Almassian. Thank you very much for tuning in to today's live streaming. I appreciate you all, whether you're watching this stream on YouTube, on Rumble, and on Gunjing Word. And special thanks to our dear friend, Red Access, for moderating the live chat. And I have to agree with him about one of the commentators, Lib for Life. I don't know if this person is a guy or a girl, but every time I look into the live chat, I see this person posting something very irrelevant, has nothing to do with the topic of our conversation and our stream. So I would really like from this person to really stick to the topic and participate in a conversation with others. And this is, as he said, our moderator, this is not a channel about LGBTQ issues or woke issues. Sometimes we do comment on this on the periphery of major topics, but not everything revolves around that. So I would really respectfully ask to stick to the topic and participate with others, discuss with them, have a conversation. Maybe you could learn something from them. Maybe you teach them something, right? I'm also many times, I'm surprised how many times that people drop brilliant questions that I myself haven't thought about. So I go and start thinking about it in order to try to answer these questions also for you. Now, today's episode, yesterday I wanted to cover this issue, what Tom Barrack said to the Lebanese journalists, asking them to not act in an animalistic manner and act civilized. And he even added another statement saying this is the problem with the region, which means few things. First, he completely disrespected not only the journalists, but also the Lebanese people, because those journalists were Lebanese. And I'm truly bothered by the fact that none of these journalists said something to Tom Barrack, at least. I mean, come on, let's be honest about this. If I was there and he said, please act civilized and not in an animalistic manner, I think the first reaction, the first and the most civilized reaction I would do, the most civilized one, is what Muntazar al-Zaidi did to George Bush when he visited Baghdad after the occupation of his country by throwing a shoe on him. I think when you are a guest, I'm the host, and when you come to my house, you must respect me or you don't visit. If you're coming and stepping over my carpet, then you must respect me as a citizen of that country. And if you don't do that, you're not welcomed. Now, many people know that I am Syrian. However, I studied my master's studies in Lebanon at Barrack University and also worked 3 years in Beirut. And during this time, I visited many, many regions and cities and towns and villages in Lebanon, probably more than many, many Lebanese, because Lebanon, for starters, after the civil war or during the civil war, there were lots of sectarian and religious tensions among different components of the society. And after the civil war, due to the Ta'if agreement, everything has become, the political system is based on sectarianism. So the president is a Maronite, the prime minister is a Sunni, and the speaker of the parliament is a Shia. And everywhere in the military, for example, you need to have, I believe, 30% Shia or 25%. Everything is based on sectarian distribution, right? And also, many regions are one-colored. Like if you go to this street, to this neighborhood, it is overwhelmingly inhabited by Sunnis, and then the next neighborhood is Shia, or the next neighborhood is from other components. So there is not much, let's say, socializing going on between these different components of the Lebanese society. And many, many people don't know much about other communities. For example, I am, as a Syrian, Christian, Orthodox, ethnic Armenian, I used to live in an area which was mixed between Maronites, Armenians. But then I used to go to work in an area which was overwhelmingly Shias, right? And my studies in northern Lebanon was very close to a major Sunni city, Tripoli, for example. So every time I used to go, for example, drive a car to a different region, I also have relatives in Lebanon. Some of my family members are Lebanese because they migrated there decades ago and they got Lebanese IDs and they stayed there. Like, they have never been, a person who was born and raised in Beirut, right, has never been to the southern suburbs of Beirut. Never stepped in, doesn't know what's going on there. His entire perception about the periphery of Beirut, which is like 2-3 kilometers away from his home, is solely based on what he hears or she hears on TV outlets. So there is a great ignorance also about the people, other people in the country. And when you have compromised TV outlets and news outlets, and it's the same also in Lebanon because there is a lots of media freedoms there, these media outlets can virtually say anything and everything about other communities, the ups and downs, and sometimes mock them, sometimes provoke them, and it also depends on the funding of these outlets. In my opinion, when I watch some of these news outlets in Lebanon and I see the drastic shift of the editorial policy of these TV outlets from, like, a decade ago, they were one place, and then 5 years later, they are in a center place, and then they move to the opposite direction. It all depends on the funding of these outlets. And Lebanon is a fertile ground. It's a very corrupted place, a very corrupted political system, and very bankrupt country. Therefore, it's a fertile ground for rich people, especially in Saudi Arabia, in the UAE, in Qatar, and also from Western countries, to invest in these TV outlets for influence, right? You can shape public opinion through that. And today I'm going to show you a few examples, and I believe what Tom Barrack said was very, very humiliating to the Lebanese people. It should have never happened. However, this is something normal. Why is it normal? Because in my opinion, after what Tom Barrack said to this during the press conference, many people said this is a slip of a tongue. And this came from Lebanese people, tried to justify that this was not an intentional, and he didn't say animalistic, but he used a different word, etc. But look, in my opinion, Tom Barrack's humiliation of the Lebanese was no slip of tongue. He simply voiced what most American officials actually believe, that we in this region, in West Asia, are less than animals in their eyes. And that if we ever appear vulnerable to them, they wouldn't hesitate to mass murder us. Look, remember what happened during the sanction era against Iraq. And remember Madeleine Albright, the former Secretary of State of the US, at the infamous interview on CBS 60 Minutes in 1996, when Lindsey Stahl confronted her about US sanctions on Iraq that killed 500,000 children, more than in Hiroshima, by the way. Albright back then didn't deny it. She didn't even flinch. She said, I think that is a very hard choice, but the price, we think the price is worth it. So this is how they see us, right? This is how they have always seen us. And now my problem with some of these, the people in Lebanon who are extremely pro-US, and I'm not really attacking their convictions, but I'm attacking and I'm criticizing them being so much like they are bowing in front of the American, right? What we say in Arabic is like al-khunu'. Like it's more than like bowing to someone. Like you no longer preserve any sort of honor and dignity. And in my opinion, political differences with your domestic, let's say, foes or rivals, etc., shouldn't mean that you would count on outside force such as the US, which is sponsoring the mass murder of the Palestinians now in Gaza, basically, to come and knock out one of your political rivals, and in this case, Hezbollah. And on this channel, we don't defend any armed groups. We don't endorse any armed groups. And I completely aware that Hezbollah is a proscribed organization, but I'm trying to explain to you that Hezbollah is not like an alien organization or alien group in the Lebanese society. Who are the Hezbollah people? Hezbollah people are part of the Shia community, which basically probably are half the country nowadays, or 40% of the population in Lebanon. So Hezbollah has spawned from the Shia population, first due to the Israeli occupation of southern Lebanon, which marched all the way to Beirut before even Hezbollah existed in 82, right? Hezbollah started in 85. And the Israeli occupation has led into an armed resistance against them, and one of these groups were Hezbollah. So Hezbollah came from a Lebanese ground and from the Lebanese people, and nowadays we hear so much provocations against the people and the popular base of Hezbollah, especially the Shias, by trying to provoke their beliefs, provoking their affiliations, and provoking their convictions, trying to basically provoke them and push them to the edge so there would be a civil clash between different components of the Lebanese society. And this is what the US is trying to do in Lebanon. And unfortunately, many in these journalistic elites, political elites in Lebanon are sellouts, complete sellouts. The amount of money dumped in the Lebanese scene, you can see the size of the American embassy. You can pause this stream now and go check, just Google it, the American embassy in Lebanon, and see the size of it. Then you notice how important Lebanon is in the eyes of the American planners, right? Unfortunately, however, many Lebanese among the anti-Hezbollah Lebanese, they make excuses for Tom Barrack, saying, for example, he didn't mean it and he didn't even say animalistic. Like here is Tom Barrack himself, by the way. Yesterday he was on Mario Naufal's show, and he said that he used the term animalistic, right?
You know, animalistic was a word that I didn't use in a derogatory manner. I'm just saying, can we calm down? Can we find some tolerance, some kindness? You know,
tolerance and
let's
kindness.
be civilized. But it was inappropriate to do when the media is just doing their job. I understand more than anybody else. These things get complicated and difficult, and it's very rare that they have an opportunity to talk to people who actually are making the decision. So they have the illusion that that's me. I should have been more generous with my time and more tolerant myself.
So this is what Tom Barrack and others think. By the way, he's Lebanese origin, but he is actually directing insults as a colonizer. This is how he deep inside in his conscious and subconscious believe. The idea that a colonizer is civilizing the savages well, historically was a justification that presented colonizers as bringing progress and order to supposedly barbaric and uncivilized indigenous populations, thereby legitimizing their not only exploitation but also mass murder. It happens in so many places around the world. This language used by Tom Barrack is a clear indication that they see us in the region as uncivilized savages. Now, of course, we have so many uncivilized savages in our region, just like in any other region, by the way. But because we are politically weak and because we are vulnerable, and now because the people of the region have lost this strategic conflict after October 7, and because Syria has been diminished into rubble, and because Iran has withdrawn from this strategic conflict to preserve its national security and borders and themselves, basically, and because they see that the leadership of Hezbollah has been decapitated and Gaza is completely decimated, now they're coming after Hezbollah to disarm it. And why would they disarm Hezbollah? For the sake of Israel. Now, has Hezbollah occupied any parts of the current day Israel? No. Is Hezbollah considered an occupation force? No, they are not. But Hezbollah is a deterrence against the Israeli attacks and occupation of Lebanese territory. Now, I can assure you, you don't have to agree with Hezbollah, right? And you can call Hezbollah a terrorist organization. I don't care. I don't care, whatever you call. But deep inside you, if Hezbollah gives away its weapons today, what do you think is going to happen the second day? The second day, Israelis will roll into Lebanon and they will go all the way to Beirut, just like they did in 82. And there are historical precedences. And Israeli Zionist theorists say that Lebanon is part of the greater Israel project. Now, after the regime change in Syria and the destruction of the Syrian army, what did Israel do? They expanded into Syria. They occupied the Mount Hermon. They went all the way on the administrative borders with Damascus. Yesterday, on Thursday, by the way, an Israeli helicopters, multiple of them, 4 or 5 of them, they have carried out a mission in the suburbs of Damascus. These helicopters carried out an airdrop just a few kilometers away from an exhibition happening in Damascus, in the city of Damascus, where Abu Muhammad al-Jolani was giving a speech. So imagine the level of humiliation as a nation, as people, you have to endure in order to accept this type of humiliation. Imagine your so-called president is giving a speech in Damascus, and a few kilometers away, the Israeli commandos are carrying out a raid for over 2 hours, few kilometers away from where he was giving the speech, right? So this is the type of humiliation that I'm really baffled to see, that people would accept such things happen in their own country and not see it and continue celebrating. Like, while these Israelis occupy entire south of the borders south of Damascus are either directly occupied by Israel or indirectly through the aerial superiority, because underground, Jolani doesn't have any weapons and any army and any heavy armaments allowed even to move 1 inch south of Damascus by the Israelis. Right? And while Israel is carrying out all this, this is how the Jolani minions are celebrating, basically. For those who don't know, by the way, this is one of the biggest trumpets of Jolani. Of course, he goes to a public wedding or some wedding, it seems, in Damascus, and he's dancing, giving someone, of course, his smartphone to document. So this is the situation in Damascus. Meanwhile, the Israeli occupation forces just under their nose, you know. So yeah, they are singing "You're a Free Syrian." Look at this trumpet. This is the guy who keeps licking the shoes of Jolani, by the way. Like, it's not even his wedding and he's receiving all the attention. Anyways, what I'm trying to say is, look, the US, Israel, France, UK, any other country, Iran, Russia, China, any other country, if you allow them to meddle in your own domestic affairs, some countries do more than others. Imperialist countries do more than others, right? But if you allow them to intervene and nose in your own country, then you lose self-respect. You should feel that you have lost self-respect. You allow an outside power to come into your country to fight against your political opponent. And this is what is happening not only in Lebanon, also in Syria. Like, the people have lost the basic sense of what is right and what is wrong. Like, as if the, you know, when a baby is born and you feed the baby this Cerelac or milk, so that you give this baby the foundation, like the immune foundation, the nutritional foundation, like as if these people have lost every, like, they lost touch with reality. They lost touch with what is righteous and what is falseness and what is right and what is wrong and what is sin and what is haram and what is nationalism, what is patriotism and what is collaboration. Like, everything is now permitted. There are no longer limits for what could be considered collaboration, what could be considered the betrayal, what could be considered spying, you know. Everything is permissible nowadays. There are no limits. Now, imagine this intervention in the Lebanese and Syrian affairs is happening in other countries. Like, imagine the Syrians, the Lebanese, the Iranians are the ones intervening and nosing in other countries' affairs. This would be a big scandal, right? And at the beginning of this conversation, I showed you a video of Lindsey Graham. I will play it also later. Like, one of the journalists asked him, so how do you expect for Hezbollah to disarm when the Israelis haven't withdrawn from the territories they occupy inside Lebanese territories? And he said, don't ask me about Israel unless you disarm Hezbollah first. But you know what is going to happen if they disarm Hezbollah? And again, I have to make another disclaimer all the time. Agree, disagree with Hezbollah, this is completely irrelevant. If you disarm Hezbollah, Israel will occupy Lebanon. Period. Northern Lebanon, it will be swallowed by the current day Syria, which is Turkey, and the rest of Lebanon will be swallowed by Israel, just like they did in Syria. It will be spheres of influence. And the second thing going to happen, if Hezbollah is disarmed, the Jolani army, they will invade Lebanon to carry out mass atrocities against the Shia community inside Lebanon. For over 14 years, since the start of the Syrian war, media outlets in the region, think tanks, PR firms, activists, talking heads, funded by Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Turkey, the UAE, they have spent billions in shaping public opinion in the region. They have created a public perception among most of the Jolani fan base, and those are millions of people, right? That Hezbollah came to Syria in 2012 to murder Sunnis, to mass rape their women and kill their children, right? This is what they have been fed for over 14 years. That Hezbollah came to Syria to simply kill the Sunnis, and they have committed mass atrocities against women, children, unarmed civilians. And I am yet to watch one video of Hezbollah committing these atrocities that they claim Hezbollah has done. And I have repeated this several times on this YouTube channel, and I want to say it one more time. I have watched videos of the former Syrian army under the Assad leadership committing atrocities against targets that are civilian in nature, or they were militants and they have laid down their arms. Those are prisoners of war. I have seen such things committed by the Syrian army, but I have yet to see one video of Hezbollah committing such atrocities. I haven't seen. Personally, if there is anyone who has such a video You have now all the opportunity in the live chat to drop this video, a link, anything. Or when the live is over, you can post it in the comments, and I promise you that I will watch it. Our friend Ghadi Francis, who was on our show on Syriana Analysis several times, she made a video responding to Tom Barrack. She says, animalistic Thomas, your buddy Epstein is animalistic. Your genocidal ally is animalistic. You joke of an envoy. Poor USA.
Asking me to speak up against the American envoy Tom Barrack. I feel so sorry for the United States of America for having such diplomats. I mean, there was a time when your diplomats knew better or spoke better. I can't even imagine this person who has been tried in the United States of America trying to become a diplomat. He's a diplomat wannabe, coming and insulting the whole region. He's telling us we need to act kind and civilized. Tom, animalistic and uncivilized is Jeffrey Epstein, your buddy, your best friend. We don't know how much you have been involved with him and with the child molestation mafia that he had. Animalistic is invading Iraq and killing over 1 million people for nothing. Animalistic is staying in Afghanistan and killing the Afghani people for over a decade and then handing it to Taliban. Animalistic is your ally in Syria, the one that bombs mosques and churches and slaughters people. Animalistic is what you've done to Libya. Animalistic is what you've done to the whole region. Animalistic is the genocidal regime you protect in occupied Palestine, that kills journalists on cam for a sport, that starves children on cam in live real-time coverage. And you have the audacity to come and tell us to act civilized. This is where civilization started. You have been trying for so hard to become a Lebanese, to claim a Lebanese identity, because you have no civilization. And if you tell yourself you're Lebanese, you might get a chance at being civilized. You come and you say this to the press inside the presidential palace. This while you go with your ally, the Israelis, who kill journalists for a sport, trying to protect them furthermore, without even getting us any concessions, while our land is occupied, while our skies are being, every day they're being breached. The ceasefire deal that you harbored in Lebanon is just a joke. Your mediation is just a joke. You couldn't even free any Lebanese prisoner, any Lebanese civilian. You couldn't even get any concession from the genocidal occupation in Israel, from the people who were tried by the ICC for war crimes. And you have the audacity to come and say and defend Israel from the Lebanese podiums, and to even talk to Lebanese journalists like that. Animalistic is you and the administration that sends envoys like you. Do you remember what happened in the 80s in Lebanon? There was one language to be spoken to the Americans in Lebanon. And if you continue to send Barbies and condescending pigs, this is what you're going to get from Lebanon.
Those are very strong words from Ghadi Francis, and I believe that she was truly upset and bothered by the words of Tom Barrack. And I believe if Ghadi Francis was present at the press conference, she would have thrown her shoe at Tom Barrack for sure. And the other Barbie who keeps standing next to him. I will also show you a few other things about her later. And speaking about animalistic, this is an animalistic behavior. This is an animalistic policy. This is a policy which brought people acting like savages, uncivilized savages, to power in Syria. Mr. Tom Barrack, this is you shaking hands with the deputy of ISIS who vowed allegiance to Ayman al-Zawahiri, who founded the Al-Qaeda offshoot in Syria, who led an army of terror against the Syrian people, against anyone who considered himself a Syrian, against the religious and ethnic minorities, who believes in a Takfiri ideology, which has blown up onto the faces of the Syrian people. And now the Syrian people are living under enormous hardships because of people like yourself, because of an animalistic policy of Washington, D.C., for endorsing, propping up, arming, training a jihadi army and bringing them into power, replacing Assad with this type of governance. This is an animalistic behavior. This is a savagery behavior. This is an uncivilized foreign policy approach. So seriously, bro, like when you speak about animalistic and all this stuff, I truly wonder if these people can do some self-reflection. My experience with these people is the following. People like Tom Barrack are not like an isolated people. This is the mainstream, or this is what is normalized in the political, academia, think tank, journalistic circles in the US and Europe, specifically among the people who support these imperialistic policies in our region. This is something that I have personally experienced, meanwhile talking with people who worked for this type of think tanks, journalists. During the discourse of the Syrian war, I have met with many people, ambassadors, envoys, right? And I have always felt deep inside that these people have no good intentions. And they think we are below them all the time. The treatment is always the master and the student. And my character is a lot different than many Syrians who were my colleagues, my schoolmates, we worked together professionally. These people have some inferiority complex towards the West. I live in the West, and I treat them respectfully, and I receive the respect that I deserve. And when I don't receive the respect I deserve, I walk away, right? I'm not here to teach anyone manners or how to act civilized and that I'm equal to them or I'm peer to them. No, it's not my job to have all these endless conversations and fights and debates with them. I just walk away. But unfortunately, I'm saying there are lots of people in Lebanon and Syria who like to be humiliated, like as if they have developed some sort of a syndrome that they enjoy being stepped over their neck, like being under the feet of others. They just cannot be free. They just cannot accept the fact that we humans are born free and we shouldn't be under the feet of anyone. So I'm not here hating against the US or the West. I'm simply asking for respect. That's all what I'm asking. And I think this is my natural right as a free person to be respected, because we definitely are not harming any Westerner. Like the people in Lebanon and Syria and Iraq, they have not come to your countries to harm you, right? And now some people come and say probably, yeah, but look at the migrants or the refugees, they're doing these knife attacks. Look, I'm the first one who attacked these people when I saw people carrying arms or carrying knives or raping or harassing or those who are from my country, right? But let's address the core of the issue, and that is, were it not for the wars that your governments waged against them, whether financial wars, whether psychological wars, whether direct wars with invasions or proxy wars, or these people would not have come to your countries. They would have stayed in Syria, Iraq, and Lebanon, right? But many people, unfortunately, for example, I will show you one example of this journalist who works for the Lebanese MTV. And the Lebanese MTV, for those who don't know, it's funded highly likely by Saudi Arabia and the Americans, and they are very much pro-American TV outlet. So this is a segment of a video 2 weeks ago when the special advisor for Supreme Leader of Iran, his name is Ali Larijani, he was in Beirut, and this is how this MTV journalist, which is a pro-American, pro-Israel, pro-Saudi Arabia TV outlet, has behaved in an uncivilized manner this time, really, with the Iranian envoy, basically. Meanwhile, the Iranian envoy stood there respectfully and didn't respond his insult with insults and just tried to listen to him. Look at this video.
كان هناك استياء رسمي لبناني من التصاريح الإيرانية واعتبروها تدخل بالشأن.
So he says in Lebanon, there were statements that say that they were upset at the Iranian interference in the domestic affairs of Lebanon.
كان هناك استياء رسمي لبناني من التصاريح الإيرانية واعتبروها تدخل بالشأن اللبناني وهي رافضة في قرارات مجلس الوزراء. هل هذا هو الموقف الرسمي الإيراني؟
Look, you see this behavior, how he behaved with Ali Larijani. He's like a lion with Ali Larijani. Now, in this video, this is the same guy, by the way. This is the same guy, how he acts with this Barbie walking Kiev, who Ortages, Orgates, whatever her name is, she keeps also working with Tom Barrack, because she was at a coiffure. She was at a Lebanese coiffure, hairdresser, and she did her hair and she posted the video, I think, on her social media account. And he is now asking her, how was the haircut?
How was the hairstyle?
How was the hairstyle? You like it? Yeah.
إيراني. How was the hairstyle?
So this is the same journalist. Lion on Ali Larijani, and then and Iran is not intervening in the affairs of Lebanon, right? They're not sending papers telling them you have to do this and you have to give this cabinet to this person, or you have to distribute the parliament the way we like, or disarm the Christian militias, because the Christians also have militias, right? It's the Americans doing it. But unfortunately, this is what we say, what the Lebanese say, mahan. This is the true definition of mahan, Lebanese mahan. Mahan Lebnani ya khayi. So this is a video showing the American envoy Morgan Ortagus, published by Lorraine Lejour, getting her hair done at the Lebanese stylist, and they say this has went viral. So this is this is the hairstyle that they were talking about. So I have to probably mute this video because there is a music in it. So as you see, this is the Barbie which accompanies Tom Barrack all the time. And she's doing her hair in Lebanon and acting in a beautiful manner. And then they come with all the threats, right? And this is, again, the journalist. I can't but show you this video over and over again. How was the hair?
How was the hairstyle?
How was the hairstyle?
You like it? Yeah.
How was the hairstyle?
You like it? You like it?
Yeah.
Yeah, Mamhoon. I hope he watches this one. I hope he does. So the funny thing is, when Ortagos was asked about whether she watched the last speech of the Secretary General of Hezbollah, Naim Qassem, this is what she said. Which, by the way, she should have spent more time on watching the speech of Naim Qassem, because she's a political envoy to Lebanon. And I believe she should at least know what her political opponents or her foes are talking about when she wants to evaluate the situation in this country. So she should have definitely watched the speech of Naim Qassem, but she didn't do. However, one of these journalists here asks her whether she watched the speech, and this is what she said. Did you watch the speech of Naim Qassem? Look what her face expressions and what she says.
Pathetic.
Pathetic. She didn't even watch it. She didn't even watch the speech to at least know what her enemy basically says when it comes to Hezbollah. But she has a big mouth, and apparently whoever appointed her knew that many in Lebanon probably would be persuaded by her look and her style, and probably they think she's hot. So
Naim Qassem and Hezbollah do not represent the Lebanese people. They represent outside forces. They represent Iran. They do not represent the Lebanese people. And what we in the United States are trying to do is to strengthen the state of Lebanon to strengthen the institutions of Lebanon, to strengthen the LAF, the Lebanese Armed Forces, the government, its institutions. We want the same thing that President Aoun and Prime Minister Nawaf Salam and even Nabi Berri want, which is a strong and independent and sovereign Lebanon. We don't want Lebanon controlled by anybody but the state and its people. And I think the people who truly care about Lebanon, the people who truly care about Lebanese people, are looking to strengthen the state and its institutions and not to give power to outside forces that could continue to disrupt Lebanon. So I believe the next step in the process is that the Chad, the head of the army, is going to deliver a disarmament plan to the Council of Ministers that they're going to review and vote on. We in the United States.
Just by the way, if you look into this, if you see all this Lebanese political and journalist class, every one of them, those are all compromised. If you're invited by the US Embassy to an event to have a drink and food or patisserie or whatever, all these people are compromised, period. There is no way, other way of seeing it. And I don't buy the claim that the US and Israel wants the best for the Lebanese. I am not naive. I'm not going to accept that notion. And I'm not going to accept the claim that simply all this 40% of the Lebanese people who's either the Shias basically, and you have many other people from outside the Shia community support Hezbollah. They have MPs in the parliament that they're simply Iranian proxies, that they're serving the Iranian interests, right? This is Lebanese territory. When a Hezbollah fighter fought and got killed against an Israeli army in Lebanon, this was a Lebanese territory. This was not an Iranian territory. A Hezbollah fighter didn't go to Iran and die for Iran. They fought for Lebanon and died for Lebanon, right? So saying it's beyond. It's so humiliating for the people who carried this banner, right? We want to resist against the occupation, and they have sent their children and kids to fight. And those are just ordinary people, by the way, in Lebanon. It's not like they came from the Mars or from Venus. And every Lebanese knows what I'm saying. Those are just normal people that they have grocery shops, they have barber shops, they are electricians, they are ophthalmologists, they are doctors, engineers. We have seen so many examples of young people that you could see simply in probably Mar Mikhael or in Hamra or in anywhere in Beirut, just hanging around, drinking tea and socializing with his friends, just normal, ordinary people. They carried arms and they went to southern Lebanon. They carried the arm and fought against Israeli forces for Lebanon and for their villages. So, for example, Khiam, this town which has given a lot of from its men, they sacrificed many of its men in this last war with Israel, and they have sacrificed a lot, right? And when you see the demographics, when you see the people's pictures and everything, you notice those are the people of Khiam, and the people of Naqoura, and the people of Merjayun, and the people of all these villages on the borders with the Israeli occupation forces. So they were fighting for their own towns and villages. And some of them, they stayed there because you remember when the Israeli attacks happened and they have compromised the telecommunication of Hezbollah, many Hezbollah fighters, they were disconnected from the leadership, but they stayed on the ground and fighting and continued fighting until the war was over. They fought for Lebanon and for their own towns at least, and not for Iran. Let's be a little bit righteous and say something that is probably uncomfortable to many people, but this is what happened. I cannot really come and distort this reality because I want to be politically correct. Sorry, not. And I'm not going to be naive to believe a woman who wears a ring like this in her finger, that she somehow is basically she wants to serve the Lebanese, right? I don't believe that. I cannot believe that somebody wearing such a ring is basically wants the best interest of the Lebanese people and not the Israel's best interest, right? But they have spent tons of money into the Lebanese political and journalistic circles, and they have, let's say, given voices to people like this woman, for example. Her name is Dima Sadiq. She works again for for MTV outlet, and MTV is a very pro-American, pro-Israeli TV outlet. And they have made these people famous, and they have amplified their voices. They made them very influential in the Lebanese, among the Lebanese society. But their political understanding of serious understanding is, I believe, my 7-year-old cousin understands more about the Middle East, West Asia, geopolitics than Dima Sadiq. That's the truth of the matter. They have empowered very intellectually incapable people. Like, she is the equivalent of Kaya Kallas, right? But in journalism, like, you clearly see that this woman, she doesn't have the intellect needed. But they have brought just cute faces to shout against Hezbollah because it's politically convenient for them, and these people would accept to do this job in exchange for money, fame, and these people receive a visa quickly to Europe, to the United States. They receive very good job opportunities, meetings, and being invited to dinners with ambassadors, etc. So fame, and many people like these things, like to be around important people. So they do whatever it takes for them to be around them. And one of them is this woman. This is in Arabic, by the way, but I'm going to translate you what she said. Save this country from the demons of Iran. Save this country from the demons of Iran. Save this country from the insanity of Naim Qasim. Save us before the opportunity passes. Prime Minister, we are with you. We are with the state. We are with the sovereignty. So basically, she's calling for the president and the prime minister of Lebanon to be tough on Hezbollah and disarm them, because she wants to stop the demons of Iran. And by the way, this woman is from southern Lebanon, and she's Shia herself. But when you see photos of her with the former ambassador of the US to Beirut sitting in such a situation, which I believe, it clearly shows that the relationship between her and the former US ambassador in Lebanon goes beyond the professional meetings, a little bit too intimate, even, I would say. And she herself published this photo. And these are the people who say they are just honest people. They're just honest journalists, and they want the best for Lebanon. Do you really think that if you saw such things, that these people really care about Lebanon? I'm sorry. I'm really sorry, but it's a little bit too much to grasp, and how people tolerate such BS, basically, in this case. The next thing that we have to, I have to show you again, is what Lindsey Graham said in the case of Hezbollah, which is important to repeat for us to understand what are they intending for the Lebanese.
Well, if I were the Israeli prime minister, I would be.
By the way, this is Joe Wilson on the left side, another AIPAC-sponsored representative, and this is, of course, one of the best servants of Israel in Congress. He is in Israel first.
Well, if I were the Israeli prime minister, I would be looking at Lebanon differently after Hezbollah was disarmed by the Lebanese people. That's your decision. Why do you need Israel to tell you to disarm Hezbollah? That's not Israel's decision. That's yours decision. Whether they withdraw or not, it depends on what you do. So don't tell me anymore, we're not going to disarm Hezbollah until Israel does something. If that's the model, you're going to fail. The reason you disarm Hezbollah, because it's best for you. This
Best for
country
you.
is going backward, not forward, if you don't follow through with disarming the Palestinians and Hezbollah and making the Lebanese army the central repository of arms for the nation. If you don't do that, you're going nowhere. Saudi Arabia is not coming here unless you do that. I'm coming here with Jean.
So you see the arrogance, right? And look, I'm not going to say anything negative against the Lebanese army, because I'm sure the Lebanese army is full of loyal soldiers. But you have to know that armies are moved by superiors. And when you buy the superiors, and when you appoint superiors who are loyal to you, to the US, to Saudi Arabia, then you can move these soldiers on the chessboard the way you like. And this is the situation in Lebanon itself, that the army, the president of Lebanon is endorsed by the US, endorsed by Saudi Arabia, and hence he is an anti-Hezbollah. The prime minister is the same. Qa'id al-Jaysh, the head of the army, is the same. Like, imagine Tom Barrack, he's an envoy, political envoy for the US to the region. He meets with the head of the Lebanese army casually. Like, what are they discussing, basically, right? And how can we believe that if there is an Israeli attack against Lebanon, who's going to support Lebanese army then? Will the United States come and support the Lebanese army to repel the Israeli attacks and occupation of southern Lebanon and probably rolling into Beirut? Has the United States in the past supported the Lebanese army to repel the Israeli occupation and push them out? No. They have encouraged them. They have given them the weapons to occupy Lebanon. So why is it different now to falsely assume that the Americans, who are basically funded by Israel lobby, right? We are talking about people like Lindsey Graham, who is funded to the tune of $1 million. He accepted donations from the AIPAC, pro-Israel interest groups inside the United States. How am I supposed to believe that these people who say things like this want the best, they have the best interests of the Lebanese at heart?
But tonight, it's late at night, Israel is in a fight for their lives. Our friends in Israel are surrounded by people who would kill them all if they could. I am tired of the word genocide. Let me tell you about genocide. If Israel wanted to commit genocide, they could. They have the capability to do that. They choose not to. Hamas, they would commit genocide in 30 seconds. They just can't. And that's the big difference, folks. To people in my party, I'm tired of this crap. Israel is our friend. They're the most reliable friend we have in the Mideast. They're a democracy, surrounded by people who would cut their throats if they could. This is not a hard choice if you're an American. It's not a hard choice if you're a Christian. A word of warning. If America pulls the plug on Israel, God will pull the plug on us. And we're not going to let that happen.
Mm-hmm.
So I just want to end.
Do you see what he said here? If America pulls the plug on Israel, God will pull the plug on us.
It's not a hard choice if you're a Christian. A word of warning. If America pulls the plug on Israel, God will pull the plug on us. And we're not going to let that happen. So I just want to end with this thought that President Trump has stood with Israel at the most difficult time since its founding. October the 7th was an effort to destroy the state of Israel, the largest loss of Jewish life since the Holocaust. And here we are almost 2 years later, and Israel's the bad guy. That's ridiculous. Israel is not the bad guy. They're the good guy. The bad guys are the radical Islamists who would kill everybody in this room if they could.
So the friends of Jeffrey Epstein are the good guys, my friends, and the people who are not on the Jeffrey Epstein, who weren't on the Jeffrey Epstein's island or on his guest list, are the bad guys. And if you don't believe that, you are an anti-Semite and a non-Christian believer, and then God will send you to hell. And if you don't believe these prophecies, you're also an anti-Semite, and you will definitely be sidelined from society. You will be deplatformed, and we will send you into an economic jail, and we will smear you, and we will call you. Some people come and think that they are provoking me in the chat later, saying that I support Iran or I support Hamas. And imagine somebody watching this stream and thinking that I support Iran or I support Hezbollah or I support Hamas. I don't support here. I'm commenting and analyzing. So people have to be a little bit more careful with their characterization, because my interest is the interest of the people in the region, and I want the best for them. And I believe that bread without dignity is also death sentence. You could have a bread on your table, but you lose your dignity, and you know how miserable person you would be. And if you don't know that feeling, probably you haven't lived in an area which was targeted constantly by people like Lindsey Graham in order to subjugate them and push them to the edge, you know. And when the time comes, and I do it all the time, to criticize the people of the region, which I do also all the time, as you see, I criticize many ideologies in the region, especially when it comes to the radical ideologies. I criticize the people who come to Europe and cause problems here. And that's why I was accused of being far right, but I wanted to protect the people in Germany, in Europe, and also us as migrants and refugees who came to Europe recently. And we don't want our reputation to be tied to being a refugee or being called knife attackers, etc., right? But these things are happening every week, unfortunately. So I'm always on, when I see something wrong, I will point out to these wrong things. The job of the journalist is not to be pushy with the people who are in charge. And the biggest power in charge of the world affairs is the US empire. So if I don't criticize the US, who would I criticize, right? We are talking about the most powerful empire in the history of humankind. And they're not really kind empire. They're not really acting in a humane and civilized manner around the world. Maybe in your own countries, they're not mass murdering you, but they're mass murdering other people around the world. So it's the responsibility and the job of a journalist not to cozy up with these people, but to criticize them. And if the US empire disappears and another empire comes, an empire X, empire Y, empire Z, and they continue on the same approach, we will criticize that empire. We will not be allied with that empire, right? This would be my message. I am not hating against America. I would really love one day to visit the US and at least be granted a visa to visit. Maybe they don't want to give me a visa anyway, but I would really love one day to visit the US. I would love to socialize with and meet my family members, my friends, and probably go on some podcasts in the US. I would really love to do that. Unfortunately, for now, that's probably not a possibility, but in the future, I really hope that would be the case. My friends, I would really appreciate it if you just hit the like button, thumbs up, before leaving this live streaming. Tomorrow, on Friday, we will do our weekly show with our dear friend Tariq Chiril Amar at 5 p.m. Central European Time, 11 a.m. Eastern American Time. And special thanks to our friend Red Access for moderating the live chat. And also special thanks to every single one of you watching this stream on YouTube, on Rumble, on Ganjing World. And thank you so much, our dear friend Timothy Samuel, for the generous support. Guys, if you like to support the independent work I'm doing on this show, you can become a patron. The link is scrolling on the screen, patreon.com/Syriana Analysis. And if you don't like to use Patreon, there are different other means in the description below. And I will see you tomorrow with our dear friend Tariq Chiril Amar. So stay tuned for that. Peace be upon you, upon your families. Salam.